Hello, everyone, and welcome to Global Conversations, a soul professional series where curiosity leads, consciousness expands, and science meets soul. I'm Camille Miller, joined by my co-host Adam Guzman-Poole and Adam Dickinson. Together, we explore the questions humanity is finally ready to ask, bridging worlds, perspectives, and ways of knowing. We're not here to provide answers. We're here to open portals to bigger conversations. Let's begin today's conversation. Today's conversation is with my co-host, Adam Dickinson. The grounded counterbalance in our shared exploration of where logic meets intuition. With 15 years inside the FBI and a lived awakening into inner intelligence, Adam brings a rare steadiness, helping us bridge analytical thinking with deeper knowing in a way that feels both safe and expansive. Welcome, both of you, to the show today.
Thanks, Camille. Thanks for having me. Good to see you,
Yeah.
Adam.
Good to
Yeah.
see you too, Adam.
For our listeners, just to reiterate what we're doing here, this is episode two. If you've missed episode one or you're starting here, go back to episode one because it talks about our why and what we're doing. Episode two, tonight's episode is about Adam Dickinson, our co-host, and episode three will be about Adam Guzman-Poole and why the three of us decided to be co-hosts and what we bring to the conversation. So you know us kind of intimately and how we think about things. So today, Adam Guzman-Poole and I are grilling Adam Dickinson.
Yeah, I
Gonna be
can't wait
fun.
for that.
It's gonna be fun. You ready? You ready,
Yeah,
Adam?
yeah, well, let's do it. I mean, why not?
So, Adam, one of the reasons I thought of you as a great co-host is because you had the very logically brained FBI analytical side to you, and this other very incredibly soulful side to you. And we will get into some of that as we go. But I feel like you are the quintessential person for science meets soul, right? The
Oh,
thinking and the knowing, like holding all of those balances together. So I would love for you just to give us a little opening about who you are, your experience, and just being a co-host. We don't have to go, we're going to ask you lots of questions, so you don't have to go deep into it, but just about like what you do in the world. How about that?
yeah, that works for me, and happy to see you all again. So, I am a logic to intuition integration advisor, serving as my title as a future self strategist. And what I do is I help high functioning adults right now interpret their inner signals to navigate their career and life transitions so they can step in to the next version of their self, their future self with clarity and expanded awareness. And right now, I'm focused on US federal workers who want to transition their careers into something that's new and more aligned. But to your what you already sort of described, my background was 15 years in the Federal Bureau of Investigation in the United States. Sure, you may have seen, watched, heard TV shows, movies on the FBI, but some of it is somewhat accurate, but some of it definitely more on the Hollywood side. But it was a great career. It sort of spanned doing cybersecurity issues, counterintelligence or espionage issues, and counterterrorism issues. And I started off as a young analyst, learning tradecraft and all the different analytic exercises to refine my thinking, to, I don't say how to communicate, but how to be professional at communicating with others. That definitely improved as I got on along with my career. But um, And as I went through the FBI, noticed things I liked, things I didn't, and my intuition really helped with that, especially around what I was going to do next and how it might fit my future vision of who I became. So, with that, let me pause and see. I gave a brief overview, but what can I share a little bit more about me with you?
So I think the biggest question I have is I think of you as an analytical person, right? What do most analytical people logically brain, because that's who I think this podcast will actually attract, because we all are.
Mhm.
What is misunderstood the most about intuition? And what finally made it all make sense to you? Like, did you always know that you had this huge intuitive side to you? Like, what
Sure.
began to shift inside you?
Yeah, so if I heard you, let me break that down into two questions.
Okay.
One, what are some of the misinterpretations about tuition? Is that fair?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay. All right. So with that, I would say common sense is kind of brought into the conversation around intuition. Also, I think intuition, meaning like some people, I would say generally combine the two areas. Whereas for me, common sense is sort of a frame of thought, a framework around the collective group at a certain time in history, at a certain setting, a certain situation. Whereas intuition for me is more about inner knowing in the present moment, observing yourself, observing the surroundings, looking at it in a certain context, and feeling the gut hunches, the energy around a thing, a decision, and so on and so forth. So it has a more of a nuance. Also, I think one of the misinterpretations around intuition, I'd say generally, is uh, it can't be trusted, or it's negative, or it's evil, or it's hard to put make decisions with it.
Hmm.
Whereas for me, and then if I heard your second question, but help me out if I
Yeah,
remember
what
it.
began to shift inside of you that, say, logic alone couldn't answer? Like,
Yeah,
yeah.
so that's a perfect segue. So for me, at the time, and I know I've mentioned this in a couple other conversations, podcast conversations, I had a painful breakup with someone, and as a gay man, I had a limiting belief that I was going to be alone. Not that it's easier if you're heterosexual, but I would say it'd be in societal um, approaches.
Yeah.
I think it's a assumption. It's just my assumption. It's easier to ask someone out on a date, for example. So I had this like limiting belief. I would be alone. It'd be really challenging to find someone, and because of that, with the realization that I wasn't going to be with this person anymore, that reality was no longer an option. I essentially fought myself internally because I wanted to keep going and try to work on it. I came from a background where the approach to relationships, um, my mother and father were very much supporting one another and were each other's sort of best friend and backbone.
Hmm.
And when my individual left and we separated, it created a rift and a really painful experience where I, yeah, essentially tried to hold on to the relationship, and it wouldn't. It was hard for me to move on. It was hard for me to deal with it. So logically, I couldn't find a way to solve it. I tried to find a therapist in the Washington, D.C. area, and for whatever reason, I didn't really find one that I could jive with to help mentally vocalize what I was going through, either through some kind of therapy. So as a result, my solution was to start meditating. I had always been curious about meditation, and I started essentially observe the pain and just sit with it. Oh my gosh, it was
Yeah.
horrible. And that's what really shifted. Oh my gosh. It was, I mean, I would cry a lot, but my goal was to try to uh, let it fall naturally as best as I could. Every time I would have an incident, I would just essentially close my eye, or like if I was at work, I
Yeah.
would try to go to the bathroom and not cry, but just sit with myself and meditate. And I also used it to cope at night when I would try to fall asleep. And eventually I became more aware of my thoughts, the energy around my thoughts, and that's how my relationship
Hmm.
with intuition grew.
Cool.
Wow.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Does that
I,
help?
yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. I mean, you are highlighting so many juicy points I want to kind of dig into. I'm trying to figure out where to go as we grill you.
Yeah.
But one of the things that I just think find so beautiful and fascinating is like how the pain was a gateway to the spiritual awakening. And I think a lot of times,
Mm.
like, these breaking points are actually they push us where we
Yeah.
need to go. And then you kind of got pushed inside yourself. I think logic can only like like we're thinking in our head, but you got pushed into the pain and you had
Yeah.
to feel it. And I think that just highlighting the gift of intuition is it's like it's your mind and your heart in coherence together. Like you need both
Yeah.
these things together. And they've actually done research on this that like you make better decisions when you have emotion involved. They've had like studies where they take away the emotion and you can't make as good decisions if the
Mm,
emotion isn't there. We sometimes have this feeling like, oh, if emotion was out of the way, we can make, and we're just like analytical, we can make better decisions. But it's amazing that the emotion helps us make these these better decisions. So I just want to like that's cool. That's what's coming up for me. And I'm curious to know like from that place of like okay, you got like pushed into this thing. Where did your awakening go from there? How did like it deepen? What was that
yeah.
journey like?
Yeah, sure. So once I started to go inward, I was experiencing a lot of different sensations from vertigo to I think my body was just coming to terms with where my mind was still at, to headaches, so on and so forth. So for me to continue on, I essentially meditated every day. I would follow individuals like Deepak Chopra. At the time, I think Jay Shetty, I'm a big fan of, was coming online on Purpose, his podcast. So shout out to him.
Yay.
And I was really following their work. And then Lewis Howes was also an individual, so that I followed a lot. And I was taking information from wherever I could, from books to podcasts, on a lot of different pillars, I think, that it surround like wealth, like health, finances, all these different foundational areas in life, because I was at a point where I essentially had a reset, like a big one. I wanted to get clear on my purpose, and because I was in a very dark place, and I was like, what's the point in eating food? What's the point on getting out of bed? So on and so forth. And eventually, I got clear on my purpose. It wasn't until like a couple of years later, but I came across through the exploration of, I would say, more mindfulness and just personal development exploration, that I came across more of the intuitive modalities. And I got introduced to the Akashic Records, which is the main modality that I practice now, through someone I went on a date with. And the backstory is, and I already gave him a heads up that he's kind of like my Yoda, if I'm like Luke Skywalker, because he now is a good friend of mine, and his sister, um, I won't say on a date, I would say just a friendly sort of coffee chat.
Mhm.
But he was very much in tune with me and provided me information that was uh, very personal but interesting because I didn't realize how he was doing it, and it was curious. I was curious about it. Yes, Camille, were you gonna? It looks
I was
like
gonna
you're gonna.
say, is he also a reader? Is that how
So
he
he,
opened you up?
yeah, so he does practice the records as well, and his sister is the one who taught me how to do the records. So
Wow,
it was
talk about
kind of like
divine
a
timing.
yeah, it
Like,
was it was a great sort of introduction to intuition and especially the Akashic Records. Yeah.
wow. I'm curious. I have a question because a lot of seekers listen to this podcast.
Mm.
We assume,
Yeah,
since we're only in episode 2, but a lot of seekers follow me. So that's why I'm going to ask some seeking questions
sure.
because I feel like I'm still a seeker too. I feel like we're all still seekers, right? Like we're
Hmm.
all going deeper and deeper and deeper.
Hmm.
But I'm curious because you talked about going like right into meditation to deal with all of that stuff. How did
Hmm.
you even know how to do it? Did you read
Uh,
books? Did you like,
yeah,
I still
my
can't quiet my mind, so this is actually a very personal question.
I what led me to meditation, what helped me the most, I mean, but I think I became very dependent on it was Insight Timer. It's like my favorite
Yep.
meditation app.
Mm-hmm.
I used it every day in the evening, mainly guided meditations,
Okay.
and I would just follow the guided meditations every day. And I think I was just at a point where I don't say I was desperate, but I was yearning for answers, and I was like, okay, I'm all in. Like, I don't want to feel this way. I was tired of feeling pain.
Okay.
So I essentially that wanting to get rid of it was the motivation to keep going.
Yeah. Pain is a great teacher. It's a great teacher. So I have two questions, but first I really want to go into this Akashic Record stuff because I mean the fact that an FBI analyst become an Akashic Record reader is like awesome. So we're going to go deeper into that, but I want to just chat a little bit about this purpose conversation because I think there's something really, as Camille was talking about being a seeker and I think we're naturally wired to ask this question like why am I like why am I here? One of the bigger level like why am I here? Like why are we here? There's that
Yeah.
universal question. And then there's also the like, well, and also why am I uniquely here? What is my unique gift, my unique contribution to the world? And I believe we all have that question, and I know that there's an answer to that. We all have a unique contribution to that. So I think it's really fascinating because you're talking about purpose. And I was actually just reading this book, and it's called Conscious Accomplishment. Shout out to the writer who wrote it. But he talked about how you can't he tried to find his purpose through the like the standard kind
Yeah.
of like doing those like character tests and like okay, what is my ikigai? And you're like, but look, approaching it in this very analytical way, and he's like, you can't get it there. You're just gonna find like keep going from one thing to another. But then when you went inside, you didn't go through the head. That's when you found your purpose, right? It was like through that going within. So I'd love to learn a little bit more and just share about that inner process, that went away from the head that helped you really discover who
Oh,
you are and why you're uniquely here.
yeah, that's a great question. So, let me take a moment to pause on that. And um, when I was getting clear on my purpose, it, and then when I was going inward, I approach even Now, I still approach my own Akashic Records logically, but it's one of the strengths of the Akashic Records, which is the art of the question.
Mm.
Uh, the I won't say the better the question when you go into your records, the better the output, but it does help navigate as kind of what I describe as the Akashic Records, kind of like my treasure map to all the answers. And initially, when I was learning the Akashic Records and trying to get clear on my purpose, it didn't really hit what I was supposed to do, but as I started to continue down the path of advancing in mastery of the Akashic Records and learning how to do readings for others, and then finally doing training for my business, future business in the Akashic Records, it became a lot more clear either through readings with my teacher who would give me a reading, or me giving readings to others. And what I mean by that, when I would do readings for others, I noticed that when I'm in flow giving readings and when I'm in flow during doing analysis, I'm essentially in my records. And it was sort of a weird unlock because the process that I used to give readings to others and for myself is following the energetic signature of thought forms, words, and phrases. And I was like, well, this is interesting because I can connect intuition to rational thinking in this way. And it was sort of a starting point when I was learning to read my own records, what that felt like and what I could do with it. And then it was, I'll say, more affirmed when my Akashic Records teacher gave me a reading and described what I'm here for. And then it was even more confirmed, or affirmed, whichever word you want to use, when I would explore my purpose in different intuitive modalities. So, for example, my human design, my astrology chart. Um, what else isn't? I explored a lot of different ones, and they all had overlap. So like my human design complements my astrology chart, complements my Akashic Records uh, purpose that I had outlined for myself. They all have an overlap, and that's how I realized that intuition based on how you engage, and interpret and use intuition um, can help clarify your purpose. And it's also having different modalities is also a part of my vision for my company down the road.
I have so many questions.
I know, me too. I mean, you go first, Camille, and then we'll keep grilling Adam. Yeah, it's gonna be
Yeah, keep
burnt by the end of
going.
this. Yeah.
So I'm assuming that Akashic Records. So I think I had a brief Akashic record. Someone was learning. So they did
Mhm.
my a reading. I don't even remember what it was, to be honest with you, and it was so long ago.
Mhm.
But I'm assuming
Mhm.
that Akashic Records are kind of like a psychic reading, that they're for the moment in time and they can
Mhm.
change,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
So some, people have readings and they're like, well, that didn't happen. It was like, well, it was for that moment in time. You can go down the street and change your mind and make a different choice, and
Mhm.
you're on a different timeline or trajectory. Or so
Right.
Akashic records are like that.
Yeah, essentially, as soon as you make a decision based on your intuition, the problem set changes.
Okay.
And so one thing that I do now and what I advise my clients on, well, this is more the advanced part of what I offer individuals now, is if they get to a point where they're constantly in their records, they can have that intuitive guidance all the time. So I kind of describe it to some friends as I kind of have a soul-based AI chatbot wherever I go. And
I love that.
I am able to tap into guidance at any moment. And it's sort of my behind the scenes secret sauce on how I navigate life.
So the first time that you were ever able to do, so you went from nothing to meditation to noticing your thoughts. So it's definitely a gradual. And
Yeah.
then you started to be I guess you were trained, right? And
Mhm.
started reading Akashic Records.
Correct.
So and for our listeners, correct me if I'm wrong, the best way to describe Akashic Records, if no one has ever heard about it, it's I've always looked at it as like the book of wisdom, the book of, and everyone has one
Yeah.
of your soul contract, maybe? Is
Uh,
that
s- yeah, I mean, it's related. I mean, I describe it generally as this energetic library to your soul that has information from your past, present, and future. And it's kind of when you tap into it, it's like your own little uh, radio station to your higher self.
okay?
Through a certain, I'll say, technique, meditative state, you can access it, and it just provides you, yeah, essentially a connection to your higher self, the best version of you, um, however you want to describe it.
So are you able to like look up your next relationship? See if you're gonna have kids. Like, is it like
Yeah,
that, like a big giant encyclopedia for anyone that might remember those big giant
right. Yeah.
encyclopedias?
I mean, I don't know if you ever, I mean, I'm a from the generation I grew up in the 90s. I don't know if you ever had those little paper things that were like in and out and you
The
had to
origami. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Unfortunately, no, I don't have my own origami eight ball, if you will.
Okay.
But especially like relationships and even things long term, the energy is so I want to describe it. Uh, it transitions a lot. So, or it,
You're changing.
yeah, it's ever changing. And so,
Hmm.
more the long term, I don't even like the word predictions, but forecasting could also maybe fit into that category. It's not as beneficial. So, another approach that I use with myself and the clients I work with is for me, intuition is about setting, and especially with the records, it's about setting or scoping the problem set and
Hmm.
more so in a near-term fashion. Because the maze in which human beings navigate their life, the intuition gives you a bird's eye view of the maze, and then logic helps you execute through each little corner that you move around. And that's how I kind of explain how the records integrate with logic.
How do you know when you're in a record and it's not your brain just telling you something? Like this guy's an
Oh,
idiot. Like, how
yeah,
do you know?
fantastic question. Yeah, or but let me answer that. And it looks like Adam also has another question.
Yeah.
So to that quick, the brief answer is because of my meditation practices, I'm able to observe the energy around my own thoughts and what is not my own thoughts.
Okay.
And intuition's a lot lighter. It's a lot quicker. You have to pay attention. You have to be present. Um, and thoughts are heavy. They feel heavy. They feel um, uh, rigid.
Hmm.
And because I meditated so much, that is just natural now that if I am in tapping into my intuition, it flows like a stream. Whereas if I am not in a great state, my natural uh, state is to lean toward logic, and thoughts are feel heavy.
Oh, that's interesting.
Hmm.
Adam G, you had
Yeah, I was just
more
so
to add.
excited to
I
jump
know.
in. You could see me like ready to like. Well, I'm really, this is a fascinating conversation. I'm really curious about that. This bridge between, okay, I'm an FBI analyst and I'm using pure logic, and
Mhm.
then I'm like looking at records, which
Mhm.
I mean, I think to a lot of people, they're like, I mean, what the hell are you talking about? Like your Akashic Records, like this energetic encyclopedia. So I'm just like, I'm curious, how do you logically, how does your logic explain that? Because I feel like, there is
Yeah.
a scientific understanding to this energetic frequency that is there. And I'm curious
Mhm.
to hear your take on it. If you were to be like that bridge to someone
Yeah.
being like, what the hell is this? How would you describe it to me in logical form?
Yeah. So if I were to break that down to me, I mean, you kind of hit on it like the first steps. It For me, the records start with energy and frequency, so you're looking at like quantum physics, or quantum principles, and then physics principles, um, and through that understanding, knowing how energy works, how form matter works, and then looking at uh, the quantum field and different dimensions of reality and incorporating that concept. And through my experiences with meditation, I equated what I was observing in meditation to the quantum field. And so I made that logical connection. And then from there, once I felt comfortable um, feeling, experiencing, describing the quantum field, then I made the leap or the bridge from the Akashic Records and energy to logical thinking because I went from the records, energy, frequency, meditation, how it affects the body, how the body is connected, going from the body to the mind, and how your emotions are interconnected, and then from body, mind to rational thinking, and how your thoughts affect your state and your body. And so it was like this sort of loop or yeah, I guess a loop might be the best sort of visual right now structure to understand it, where everything is sort of interconnected with one another. And that's generally how simplified version, how I bridge the two. Um, because to me, everything is interconnected, everything is one but not. Duality is also something I look at a lot, and how the world is this or that, or up or down, or positive or negative. And I also looked at the Akashic field as a form of duality, one you can't see, but it's always there. And I became comfortable with that, or I accepted it because um, it made me feel comfortable when I was transitioning out of my pain. And if I knew that there was something guiding me all the time and I could access it, that made it more manageable to live day to day.
Mm, that's amazing. It's I'm almost thinking like, so when you're talking about this quantum field and these quantum ideas, and it's like you're talking about like all realities available at once, and then sort of like what I think it's quantum entanglement, or
Yeah.
gosh, I'm not a quantum, I'm not a, if there's a quantum physicist listening to this, forgive me if I got it wrong, but there's that everything is possible, and you were kind of tuning into that frequency, and
Yeah.
then yeah, okay, well, thank you for that. I'm going to pass it to you, Camille, because I know you got a question to follow this up.
So my question is, in your work helping federal employees,
Mhm.
do you immediately talk about how you tap into your knowing? Like, does that come up in conversation, or do you just kind of keep it quiet? Like, yeah, I know exactly what's happening here. How do I tell you this?
Oh, well, you mean before like they became a client of mine or
Yeah,
when
either
I'm
way, I'm just
giving a reading?
curious. When do you break
Oh,
the
okay.
ice?
Yeah, when do I break the ice? That's a great question.
I'm an Akashic record reader. Just sorry, just so you know.
Yeah, yeah, that's a great point. I mean, there are different what I want to call it? Engagement points with
Uh-huh.
me
Yeah.
on how individuals can know my stance on the Akashic Records and that I'm involved with it. Right now, my marketing channel is LinkedIn, so I openly, talk about the Akashic Records there. And if individuals become interested and want to chat with me, I will either explain to them on LinkedIn some questions or some tips on not necessarily the records themselves, but related intuitive approaches to how they could maybe solve their problem.
Yeah.
If they're interested even more, I'll get on a call with them. Actually, today I was had a conversation with a potential client, and she had a question around the Akashic Records. And I explained like what it is, how I use it, how I access it, and so on and so forth. But then if an individual actually works with me, I go a little deeper and give sort of behind the scenes, I would say advanced techniques, but people can learn how to navigate their life if they work with me. So with the records.
Is there confirmation for the people when you're giving them information? Are you getting some type of confirmation so they know that you're in their record? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I follow
Okay.
you. So, for me, confirmation can be squishy
Okay.
because, especially with intuition, I find it is always changing. And if you're approaching intuition or the Akashic Records to test it, to see if it's real, if I'm hearing your question, and correct me if I don't answer it, it doesn't have as much value or potency.
Okay.
So what I mean by that is um, often when I'm giving readings, it reaffirms a client's sort of notion of where they want to go, what they want to do, and they either have trouble naming it, they either have trouble describing it, they either have trouble knowing what to do with it, how to interpret it. And so I don't really give confirmation per se. It just is kind of like a mirror to an individual of saying, this is what's happening in your records. This is what's happening in your energetic signature, your environment. That's what's happening at the moment. And but again, it's in the moment, so it doesn't last for very long.
Yeah. Gotcha. So as you read individual Akashic records, can you read Akashic records on businesses or this amazing podcast?
Yes, I could. Yes, I could do a reading for groups. I can do a reading for businesses, and even this podcast.
Ooh,
Okay.
you
Can we
should
ask
do.
you to do that
y-
right now?
I was gonna
Like,
say,
yeah,
are you able to do it? Is it something
yeah.
you just
I
tap into, or you have to like
Yeah,
put
yeah,
yourself?
I have to ground a moment, and
We
I
can
would
pause
love
the podcast and then jump into it. I say we totally do it. What do
I'm
you say?
curious.
Yeah.
oh
Would you be
my,
willing to do that for us?
not today. Another
Okay.
Uh,
episode.
Okay.
okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
I needed to check in. Um, no, not today, but definitely can in a future episode.
Okay.
Awesome. Awesome.
That's
Sorry,
awesome.
we don't want to grill you too much.
I'm
So,
curious. Yeah. All right. So, Adam, do you have anything else on the Akashic records? Because I have another question, but
No,
not on the
no,
records
no,
anymore.
no. We'll keep going. I'm just curious to know a bit more about Adam's story, and I guess
Yeah.
I mean his. I'll pass it to you. So I think it'll follow up with other questions that come
Do you
from me.
want to ask something about Adam's story? Because I figured we got the Akashic Records, but I'd love to hear about some of your FBI, whatever you're allowed to tell us.
Hmm.
Because one of the things when we were putting together the podcast and thinking about who do we want to interview, how do we want it to look like, you did
Hmm.
talk about extraterrestrial things, life beings, UFOs, and I would love to hear just that kind of knowledge, that kind of scene, just because you're going to be adding it.
Uh-huh.
You are our knowledge base in
Sure.
this way.
Yeah. My connection to that is it deals more with sort of my long-term vision with my business. So when I was in learning about the Akashic Records and I created my business in my Akashic Records, I knew I had a vision of um, supporting humanity as we either went into outer space or shifted in some way where we're going to have to deal with something. And that was about 2020, 2019, when
Okay.
I had this plan, this vision. So, I mean, I haven't really shared it with too many people, but I developed an expertise in the space industry when I was at the FBI, and created a public-private working group on space issues related to U.S. critical infrastructure because of this personal vision. But I mean, it was needed at the time, and it was approved and everything. But behind the scenes, only a couple people really knew. Like, why is Adam so much in the space industry? Um, so I was able to develop a lot of great relationships in the space industry, and through that work, I got, I guess, opportunities to learn more about. You could use the term extraterrestrials, you could use the term unidentified anomalous phenomena, whatever phrase you want to use, and it just became sort of a natural connection. It's not something that I personally get excited about, but for me, I'm just holding space for that area. If it turns out that there is a need for intuitives, if there is a need for soul professionals to support whatever happens, I think, role would be just a kind of an ambassador, a diplomat, a advisor to whenever that might occur.
I love it.
Can you share a bit more about what that vision is? Just get because yeah, I'd love
Yeah,
to.
yeah, sure. So this is also going back to my purpose. What I do essentially, again, is to help individuals get connected to their inner intelligence so they could start to make decisions in their external environment. And that's a, I bring that up because to me, intuition is just another data source. And so my long-term vision is to create, hopefully our fans are Star Trek fans, but I would like to one day create a Starfleet intelligence-like organization where the main discipline is integrating intuition into decision making. You could also describe it as integrating metaphysical data into decision making. So, what that looks like, I came from the US intelligence community, and there are various agencies that have certain roles and responsibilities. And so I would like to mirror that and create similar organizations that have different roles and responsibilities. So, for example, one agency or group within this larger collective would be solely in charge of refining intuitive disciplines, refining intuitive intelligence. Another agency or group within the organization would be in charge of integrating logic and intuition. So people like myself, we would be
Mhm.
bridges. And then another agency or organization within the larger collective would be rational thinkers who only really feel comfortable with that. And what would happen is the global collective would come together and provide a consensus, a judgment based on physical data and metaphysical data. So you're essentially coming to judgments that are interdimensional and multidimensional instead of only based on physical plane uh, logic.
Wow, that's a mouthful.
Yeah.
Aren't you
You
glad you
are
asked?
you're the perfect person for the job, Adam. So thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for I really believe that our whole journey has like leads us up to,
Yeah.
our purpose. And it's like totally like all that time in the FBI, all that refining. And now that work with Akashic Records is like building up so that this beautiful vision can come through. So may it be so. So happy to be with you on this journey, Adam, and so happy
Yeah.
people like you are out there in the world doing this work.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
You are a fabulous representation of hopefully our listeners, but I feel like me and everyone else that probably started in very logical spaces,
Mm.
and the world itself is going through a paradigm shift, right? I feel like a lot of us are awakening and questioning and starting to feel and become more heart-centered, more global minded.
Hmm.
So I loved that you shared your story with us from the very logical to the very spiritual in the Akashic
Hmm.
Records. Adam, if people wanted to read more about you or get in touch with you, what's the best way to do that?
Yeah, that's a great question. So if you're in the middle of a career transition or even a personal shift and want more clarity in your next steps, you can connect with me on LinkedIn. My hash or moniker is Adam-R-Dickinson. Dickinson. So I share weekly insights on on logic to intuition integration and practical ways to understand your inner intelligence during reinvention.
Awesome. And
And you,
all that information will be in, oh, go ahead, Adam.
oh, and you can get an Akashic record reading from him too. So
Yeah, that's right.
that's out of the
I
bag.
I love it. I love it. All of that information will be in the show notes. And again, if you started with this episode, go back to episode 1 and start there about our why. And make sure you listen to the next episode, episode 3, when we talk about Adam Guzman-Poole. And I want to
Mm.
thank you guys, my beautiful co-hosts, for being a part of the conversation, and thank our listeners for following us, being a part of the conversation. I want to remind everyone that we do not edit this. At least in our first season, we are not editing. We are just going raw and just being us, because I believe that that's what authenticity is all about. So, just letting you guys all know that ahead of time. And I want to thank you, our listeners, for joining us for this episode of Global Conversations. This is part of the Soul Professional Global Conversation series. If today's dialogue sparks something for you, we invite you to continue the conversation by subscribing to our channel, sharing this episode, or connecting with the Soul Professional community at Soul, S-O-U-L, professional.com. This series is an open invitation to explore, question, and expand together. Until next time, stay curious, stay conscious, and stay connected. Bye, everyone.